All right, welcome back to another episode of the Four Trained Savages podcast, episode number 18 with Rob and Tyler. And today we got another special guest coming through, very well known in the Yankee space, Talkin Jake from Jomboy Media, talking baseball and talking Yanks. Jake, what's up, dude? Appreciate you coming on the pod, man.
What's going on, boys? Excited to talk, man. Excited to do a little Yankee stuff. It's our roots and it's what started all this. And then we kind of have these weird moments where now that we're in the mix with all of baseball, it's kind of a nice moment when we come back and talk some Yanks, baby. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The Moondoggy King himself as well. I had to throw that out there a little bit.
Thank you. I don't know. That was out there before me. I think. Did I just beat that to death, or am I losing my mind?
I'm pretty sure. I think you've beaten it to death, especially with Yankee fans. Like, I hadn't have heard of it, and then Tyler was like a massive fan of yours, and he kept showing me like all your moondoggies and saying that, and I was like, that is a tremendous phrase. I usually go with piss missile, like when I see Giancarlo, just throw off a piss missile, but Moondoggy is up there. Like it's definitely top of the list there. So we have a fun segment, by the way, later in the pod that I think you'll like for Moondoggies. So starting with we'll go with the Yanks, and we'll also want to get your opinion on the World Series a little bit because we haven't had a pod since we talked about since the World Series ended. So, but we'll start with the Yanks because Yanks podcast. We gotta roll with the boys. So, your takeaways from the 2020 season as a whole, regular season, and also along with, what happened in the Rays series, what may happen with the managerial positions. And I mean, we're kind of thinking Aaron Boone's going to stay, kind of looks like that, but also with just kind of the front office and how that kind of dealing's going down. What were your takeaways from the season? Any positives and kind of the areas that we need to improve on?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's so brutal because the overlying thing is 2020, crazy year, short season, blah, blah, blah. And if normally someone came at me with 60-game sample sizes, I would be like, dude, get that out of my face. But that's all we had this year. So that makes it kind of tough. That being said, I flatlined a decent amount through the regular season because I was like, you know what? This team says they're building up for the postseason. Let's see it, right? And if they're right and ready to go and they can do it in October, I don't care about September or August. Like, let's go. So when they go out in those, first two games against Cleveland, the offense looks nuts and Garrett's doing it. And then we win that first game against Tampa. I mean, I'm gone. Like, I'm talent-wise, the roster is still there. Like, and this isn't a shots fired at the Rays. Like, I do think the Yankees, or at least at the top end of their roster, are more talented. Now, I think when you go through depth, I think the Rays are a lot better, and I think that showed in Game 5. I mean, the clip of Jimmy that was going pretty viral when Mike Ford comes up to pinch hit. Jimmy looks like he's seen a ghost, and
all of us did. All of us looked like our souls just were ripped from our hearts. It was like, what is going on with this decision here? The guy hasn't hit a ball since like last year. Why is he coming in? It didn't make any sense.
And then in comparison, I mean, look at the World Series game, that crazy Game 4 the Rays won. Brett Phillips, kind of the last guy on their roster. He was left off the CS roster. He ends up getting the big game-winning hit. So, when these rosters get tested and baseball is a sick sport, especially with the consecutive playoff games, I mean, the Yankees got killed by that. The Yankees, this season, they relied on like 3 bullpen arms by the end. So when the games were 5 straight days, I mean, that's just a brutal ass for them. So, I mean, it sucks. They go to the Game 5. Whoa. Loses his camera.
Man down.
We good.
We're all good.
He's back. Yeah, I mean, we went to 5 with the Rays, and we could have won that game pretty easily. We make 2 mistakes. I mean, it's Cole, and then it's, obviously the Brasso off of Chapman, and then that Rays team goes to the World Series, and they beat the Astros the Dodgers were the better team. The best team in baseball won this year. And I think that's kind of, as a Yankee fan, I still don't get myself too jazzed up because I think if we played the Astros, I would have been sick to my stomach for a week and a half. Like,
Just throwing up.
if the Yankees lose that series, Jomboy's throwing away his phone. The company and everything. Like, we can look really bad, and they would kill us. So I'm not happy I dodged that. I would have liked to play them. I do think the Yankees are better than them. But the Dodgers were the best team, and I think that's why a lot of people aren't complaining about the short season. I think the best team end up winning this year. For the Yankees going forward, we'll see, man. I'm really curious about this offseason. I've talked myself down. I feel like normally I'm kind of optimistic, glass half full, but everything we've heard from people is that they're not going to spend this year. They're one of the teams that got hurt most by the COVID stuff. The Steinbrenners own the Yankees. It's not like they're an oil tycoon who happens to own the Yankees. They own the Yankees, and that business did not do well for them this year. So, I'm hoping that they've got it in their senses enough to get DJ and, maybe Tanaka, because they're going to need at least one more veteran arm.
A big Tanaka comeback kind of pod. We've been seeing, I'm sure you see it too. We always bitch and moan at the trade deadline for a starting pitcher. Now, it has to come at the right price, of course, because there could always be someone that just out of left field, maybe a West Coast team or someone out of the blue just wants to give him a shit ton of money. But if it comes at the right price, I see no reason why we should not let Tanaka come back. And Tyler, you've kind of come back with the point that, oh, will there be a spot for him in the rotation? But I'm not really sold on personally of like putting Clark in there immediately, and even the Yankees take a while to kind of put in their younger pitchers like that. And I love what I saw from Devi, but I know Tanaka struggled in that last start again in Tampa Bay and the Cleveland, even though it was rain delay. But he's been such a consistent performer for us for the past years that I think that if at the right price, we need to bring him back, because we always talk, Lance Lynn was the prize guy at the trade deadline last year. So it's like, I think we need to keep him. I'm not, Tyler, if you kind of want to elaborate on what you were thinking too with like the pitching.
I'm all for keeping Tanaka. Jake, I think you're on the same bandwagon as well. We don't put up with any type of Tanaka slander. That's just not a cool thing to do. It does not make you cool to make fun of Masahiro Tanaka whatsoever. But I'm kind of for bringing him back at like 2 years max. I don't really think that's realistic though, unless he really wants to take kind of like a hometown discount. I know there's teams like over in Japan that might pay him like $20 million a year. And I'm also kind of worried about him maybe clogging up a roto spot going forward with, all the young arms they got. So I don't know. Do you think the Yanks bring back Tank in the next year?
I think they're going to bring in a veteran pitcher. I think Tanaka's at the high end. Tanaka's done a lot for the Yankees. He earned his contract. He got paid boy bucks, and he pitched through it, and he was great in the playoffs up until this last season. With the young guys, and I think the only wild card here is Sevi, because, Sevi, he's rehab and he's going to come back. They keep saying June, July, which means he's basically going to be their trade deadline piece this year, if I had to guess. So then when you go into it, it's Cole's the one. I think Gumby's going to have a spot. Mm-hmm. Devi has earned it. He'll be there. Clark, I think you want him starting the season as your 6th starting pitcher, and you're going to need him. Like, you're going to use him. And that's the only thing where I come back on, if you say he's blocking a spot for a young guy, pitching just doesn't work out that way. Like, Clark Schmidt, like we didn't think Davey was going to get a chance this year, and then he came up in a shortened season. So the question
Herman
is,
in your 5 next year?
I've got Herman in my 5 as of now. He's talented, and they gave all the speeches. He technically served his punishment, and it's something some people won't be happy about, because and you're entitled to that. I mean,
absolutely.
that's how it works. So, but I do think he served his punishment, and Hal had his weird going away line that we got to reevaluate. But I think that was kind of for optics, if we're being honest. But I still think they need one more veteran to start the season, and I think it's Tanaka on the high end. And then on the low end, I mean, it's, a project guy like Corey Kluber. Everyone was talking about that the other day. It's been a couple years since
You
he's
like
been
Kluber?
good.
Do you like Kluber?
Everything, someone told Jimmy, that once Kluber got hurt originally 2 years ago when he had the forearm thing, someone reached out to Jimmy and was like, yo, Kluber, I don't know anymore. So is there a chance he gets back with Matt Blake and he finds something? And again, even for half a season, that could be all we need out of that position with Sevy coming back. I don't know. For me, it turns into value. Is it 1 year, $4 million to see if Corey Kluber can be great again? Sure. I mean, I don't really care. If it comes down to Kluber Tanaka for a 1 year, $12 million contract, give me Tank at this point. I mean, Kluber's been out for a while, and the Tanaka thing's so wild, man, because he really is like a star of star over in Japan, and I wonder if he's factoring COVID. And we just had Brian Hoke on the pod, and Tanaka's a legit guy. He's like, I came over here to win a World Series. Like, that's what I want to do. I want to check that box. I've done, I date a pop star. I'm like the king. I'm the king of the world over there.
Yeah, his wife is like a really big deal over there, right?
Huge. He's the second biggest star in his family. Like, she's a bigger star than him.
That's kind of awesome.
It's crazy. And that might be a half truth, but the fact that it's even an honest conversation is something. Because I don't know if you guys saw it. It was one of the 30-30. I forget if it was a 30 for 30, but it was a documentary during the main COVID times. They did Koshien. It's like the baseball tournament over in Japan. It's a weird high school tournament. It's single elimination for every team. It's kind of badass. And Tanaka was like the god of it. He won it twice for his town. So he's a hero over there, man. So, I mean, there's a world where he goes over there. He, gets paid to pitch. He dominates. He opens Tanaka steakhouses or whatever the hell he wants to do over there. And he could make a killing. At the same time, and I think we've all seen it in Tanaka's big games when that fire is lit, these guys are built so differently than us. Like, their competitive side is nuts. That
they're training too. They they're just locked into baseball. Don't they have baseball schools and stuff? A lot of them, it's just 24/7 baseball. It's
just pride. It's connected to their soul. And if Masahiro Tanaka wants to win a title, that's what he's going to do. And you hope it's with the Yankees and they've got that kind of relationship where they can figure out the money. The one team that scared me was the Angels. I heard that rumor the other day. And I mean, they've got Ohtani and they've always been hunting for pitching. So do they throw a bag at him? And at the same time, I say all that stuff about Tanaka, but hey, if the Yankees are offering you 1 year for $12 million and the Angels come out and say, here's 3 for $60, I don't care how much. I don't care how much money you've made. That's still $48 million that you can do whatever you want with. So, we said coming into the offseason, the best case would be DJ and Tank are re-signed. And then from there, it would be small shuffling pieces because I really don't think they're not going to make a big move outside of those guys coming back. Yeah, I really don't think so.
They're not doing much. I don't
Yankees
think.
Twitter is delusional. I see all these wish lists of, we're getting Bauer. We're getting Real Muto. Absolutely not. Stop setting yourself up for disappointment because if you keep doing it, it's just going to makes us look bad, Jake. It really does. It makes us look like the stupid fan base, honestly. I hate to say it, but sometimes when they throw out this stuff, it's but is it realistic sometimes? That's all I'm saying. But before we head into more World Series talk, one last thing with the Yankees. We've been talking about Gary Sanchez and Higashioka splitting time, stuff like that. What I think I want to see more from Higgy, and maybe Gary has a resurgence next year. So it's going to be interesting. But what's your prediction for? Do you think Gary kind of gets it together, or is he maybe heading on his way out next year, even from whatever performance he gives next year, if he however he does?
My best guess on it is that Gary's back and Higgy's back. The Yankees organization really likes Higgy. Some of the scouts we've gotten to talk to, his pitch framing. I've always loved his power. It kind of started as a joke. I've jokingly said for a little while, I was like, I think you've got a top. If they did just a random bracket and they did home run derby, I think Higgy could find his way into the final 5. I don't know how it happens. I think he might need some matchup luck along the way. Maybe it's, he gets Talkman in the first round. I don't know. I like his power swing. At the same time, and it's the phrase of 2020, but like Gary Sanchez is built different, and emoji with the snort out the nose or whatever. Like he really is. I mean, he's the fastest AL player to 100 home runs. The way the ball comes off his bat when he's right is different, and I think we interviewed Higgy at camp last year, and Higgy wasn't even confident. He's very confident in himself. He wasn't confident enough to say he had won the backup catcher job. Like Gary's kind of on a different level. You don't see catchers hit like he can when he's right. That being said, he's been bad. He's been bad. So, and then again, going back to value, I just don't see how you trade him. I don't see how other teams offer something the Yankees would need or want. My best guess would be it's Gary and Higgy are back. Maybe there's another veteran in the mix that they're trying to spark either one of those guys with. But I think those guys come back and you say, yeah, the job's available, hoping to light the spark under Gary. Gary looks good and Gary ends up getting it. But at the same time, I would not be shocked if this is the year where the Yankees are just like, we can't do it anymore. If someone does offer them something of value, if maybe they can juggle the money around a little bit, if that's a really big problem, I could see it happening. But again, it's selling so low on Gary Sanchez that, I mean, say what you want about him. Some people don't believe about him as a catcher. Some people don't believe in him as a hitter. When it's right, man, it's beautiful. It's something that catchers don't do. Catchers don't do it. And that's a statement we say all the time is like, compare Gary Sanchez to other catchers and the numbers look great. When you compare Gary Sanchez to Judge, that's tough. And it's unfair. It's unfair.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, and we've talked about it on this pod that it really puts Gary at a kind of tough position to really perform well because the whole rest of the roster is really stacked, and you kind of say like hitting with a catcher is plus, and it's going to be interesting to really see what Higashioka does with some more time, and really how he pans out. And like you said, that Gary is a different breed of hitter, but he also, it seems personality-wise, there's been a narrative labeled with him that he's a bit lazy and he doesn't put forth the effort. I don't know if that just seems like the perception that he gives off for Yankee fans, and it's really tough for him to kind of live that. It's going to take a huge season next year, I think, for Yankee fans to really do like a 180 with him just on how he's gotten put down the way that he has this year.
I hope he does it, and that's obvious. I mean, a couple Yankee guys talking. It'd be cool if, Gary went out and hit 40 next year. We'll see. I mean, it's brutal, man. I mean, picture like Gary shows these moments of doing silly stuff and being a fun guy. I think
they love him in the clubhouse, dude. I feel like.
with his struggles, sometimes I feel like he tries not to do that stuff. And the other thing is, and I'll relate it to the other New York catcher that used to really rake, is Piazza. I mean, this starts to get into some racial stuff, but people never said Piazza was lazy. They just said he sucked at defense. And that's where there's some weird stuff there that it's like.
That is true.
I
didn't even think about it like that.
We always harp on like what guys can't do. Like if there's a NBA player, Ben Simmons can't shoot a lick. And how much do we get lost in that instead of the fact that he's an all-NBA defender and the fact that he's a world-class passer? Like we always get sucked into the bad stuff because we wonder, like, well, if you can do this, why can't you do this? Some guys can't. And I think Gary's had these defensive seasons where he does have a great arm. He had a better blocking year. I want to say it was last year. He had a good pitch framing year. It's just never been the complete package. And the new catching style at times last year, that became frustrating because, like, trying to catch Zach Britton doing that one leg stuff, it just doesn't happen.
Spike and sinkers.
Yeah, and again, that becomes a reflection on Gary. So I think it gets – now let me say this. At the same time, we've gotten to see Gio Urshela play third base, and we've been like, holy shit, that's what third base looks like, especially after Andujar. That, I wouldn't be shocked if in 3 years, say, the Yankees bring in some stud defensive catcher. We'll even be optimistic about it. Gary's a stud.
Didn't they draft a catcher 2 years ago?
They've drafted a couple, haven't they?
Didn't they drafted a high-touted one, though, right? Like close to top 5 rounds, I think.
They drafted Austin Wells this year is technically a catcher, but that kid was just
he won't be a catcher.
Yeah, he was like, I don't care. I just hit. It's like, all right, you're on the team, son.
Yeah. I heard you, buddy.
And then who they drafted the high school shortstop kid, and then there was a catcher the year before that or something. I forget, but we'll see. And who knows? Baseball moves quick, man. I mean, go look at a box score from 2017, and it's like, oh.
That was the team.
there's a lot of different bodies. So we'll see, man. It's I've been a Gary defender. Jom's been a Gary defender. It's hit the point where, can't defend it. You can only point to some of the information, but he's a couple bad swings next year from the experiment being over. And it's nuts. It's nuts.
It's just a shame because we know what he can do, And we want to see that all the time, which I mean, as a Yankee fan, we've been a tad bit spoiled with that, but I guess it'll play out next year. We'll see how things roll.
How many games did he play this year? 40 something?
42, I believe.
What's frustrating is he was healthy this year too.
47.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah. And it's how do you measure it? I mean,
sample size.
He lands at 49 games. I mean, the OPS is 618, which, again, is pretty bad. But compare that to a lot of catchers. It's not awful. But you say that, and then it just goes a sour route. So, I don't know. Motivate him to come in and rake because he's not a 147 hitter, man.
Yeah,
He's just not. And that's the part it's so frustrating, man. I mean, that ball in the gap he hit off Houston in the playoffs, like, that's Gary Sanchez when he's right. He can drive it the other way, just like all the other big dudes in this lineup, and he's just gotten so pull heavy. I don't know.
We're gonna have to see it. He's definitely got his balls to the wall this upcoming season for sure. So, moving on from some Yankees talk, but we'll divert back eventually.
World Series, baby.
World Series. You guys made a trip out there. How was the new stadium, the new digs in Arlington?
How was the whole vibe there too? I mean, first series, COVID.
Yeah, man. It was cool. I mean, it was cool. We definitely, the overlying thing for us is basically we went to the World Series and we got to call it work. So that's as cool as it gets. And then from there, I mean, it was kind of funny leading up, and it's the weird side of that. This is like a business now, is that we kind of have to be thinking ahead. So like we had a couple shirts ready to go if the Yankees had beat the Rays. Like we were going to do Bronx Glue Factory because they had the horse thing going. A couple people we ended up doing that for the Dodgers when they beat the Rays. A couple people didn't like those shirts. Sorry to all our horse fans.
I did see some negative comments on those shirts.
Yeah, and
that's what you're going to get.
That's the internet, baby. So, so for a time, especially after the Yankees won that first game in Tampa, so right before that, we had decided we were going to go to the World Series. They announced that fans were going to be let in. we figured it out with ticket prices and everything. We're like, all right, we got to go talking baseball. The podcast is actually outgrown Talkin Yanks, which is really cool. So we're like, we got to do this, if nothing else, just to show people, like we're legit, we're real. So we get down there, we go to game 4. That's the game we got tickets to.
And you were like, I got to figure out what I'm going to wear.
Yeah. So dress code is sexy. So we go there. Oh my God. Yeah. I copied that crazy home run guy. That was
hilarious. That was so funny. I saw
How did you get such a shirt on such short notice? That's pretty much the main concern in this pod.
The internet's nuts, man. We had, because we were live streaming the games, we had some people like look into it. Basically a search team started out. There was a guy on eBay that had the shirt who lived in New Jersey. So he got like 20 messages from people that were like, need that shirt, man.
Yeah, now.
And he was like, are you guys, it was listed for $10. I mean, it's just this random old shirt. And the guy was like, what the hell's going on? So we go to the game, and it was 2020. Like, it was exciting and awesome to be at a sporting event and see people and be doing it. The new stadium is wild. I mean, I think my going statement on it is like, it's a feat of mankind, but it's not necessarily a ballpark. Like, I don't know, the dome was closed and it's really high. It's big. So I don't know. I think a ballpark naturally has more of a lengthy vibe to it. I liked it. I mean, I'm pretty simple. So like new, cool, and nice. Yeah. Sign me up. I don't think it beats out traditional parks. Like, I wouldn't put it over Wrigley or anything like that, or even Fenway, just all the classic baseball stadiums. It doesn't have that vibe. It's very modern, new. There was some like low-level suites that looked awesome. We were not in those. But and then the game started, and it was kind of weird because me and Jimmy are looking at each other like, man, it'd be really fucking cool if the Yankees could go to a World Series, huh?
Yeah.
It's all right. We need to do it in the Bronx. That's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we need to we need to blow the Bronx up. So
we need to have our own parade too. So we'll save that for next year. But yeah, you see these Dodgers fans and a chunk of Rays fans living and dying on each pitch, and we weren't.
There was
doing
a single Rays fan there.
We saw one. No, game 4 they had a pretty good turnout.
How crazy was that game? That had to be. I was on one of my buddies' pod, and we were talking about our top moments of World Series before, like in the past decade. And David Freese came up, and the Rajay Davis hitting the home run. That has to be one of the craziest turn of events, with a Rosarena just running around. And by the way, I love you with Passon doing the song for Randy. It's
Brother
so
Jeff.
funny. So funny. But that had to be I know it was like less fans, but was that, what other like kind of games compared to that kind of environment? Even though it was, I don't know what the percentage was on the fans, but that had to be crazy. Just the turn of emotions, and like the video of Jimmy going, "What the fuck just happened?" Like, insane, man. That was amazing to watch.
It was nuts, man. And the game had been back and forth. I think there was runs scored in like 8 straight half innings or something. I mean, it was unbelievable. And then the Dodgers, I think they put up the first 0 in a while. And then I think the Rays came back. Yeah, big time. And it was nuts, man. I mean, you're trying to process it as it happens, and then you're in your head almost like this is an all-time baseball moment, I think. And you're trying to put together every little thing that happened, from Brett Phillips. I mean, the guy getting the hit. It beats the shift. Taylor boots it. Wise Taylor in center field, gets the throw to Muncy. Arozarena's going for some reason. They've got him dead to rights. He trips. Muncy sees he trips, so Muncy tries to aim it more than throw it, and he puts it a little to the left of the catcher. The catcher doesn't know Arozarena tripped, so he's trying to make a sweep tag that he didn't need to, so he rushes it, and he misses the ball, and it's like, oh my God, how did all of this happen? Kenley didn't back up because he was sad boy mode, and you wonder what happens then. So
sad boy moment.
yeah, it was just one of those. And then the game's over and everyone's looking around like that was wild. I mean, even Dodger fans didn't look as sad as they were shocked. And then it was, again, 2020 is getting used as a word now and everyone knows what it means. But you're looking around like the place was loud. The fans got loud. It was wild. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, you're like, damn, like the stadium's at a quarter capacity right now.
Yeah,
like what would this have been like if it was, fully packed? Like I genuinely can't imagine, because it was, one of the craziest scenes I've ever seen. That's pretty lame.
That's all right.
That it's, trying to put it in that scope, you almost get a little bummed out after, because you're like, damn, what would that have been like? And it's I don't know. That's just 2020.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Hey, you were there for some crazy moment though. So
yeah,
and hopefully it won't happen again, as in 11,000 like fan
only
capacity.
Being allowed.
Yeah.
English
is not rolling off the tongue today, but
every day for me, man. That's I don't have it.
You guys were there for Game 6 though too, right?
So we went to 6-2, and that was we were mad at Plouffe. Plouffe was supposed to come for Game 6, and then he bailed. His wife was like, "It's not safe," and we're like, "Yeah, she's probably kind of right, dude." But yeah, so we were excited, and I mean, Jomboy's a sicko, so our content, hashtag content from Game 4 came out really good. We had this.
You guys were pumping shit out.
Dude, we had this camera attachment that took like really good videos, basically straight from the iPhone. And then we relayed that to like one of our editors, and he put stuff up and he could sync it with, and it was just like beautiful. It was, I think we stole this saying from Barstool, but I think there's a saying that's like, if you want to do content, you can't go to the games. Because you got to be watching or reacting or doing whatever.
We'll throw that shit away, huh?
Yeah, we kind of we almost found a cheat code a little bit. So we were excited, and especially because coming in when we flew down there, we weren't ensured that there would even be a Game 6. So once we got the Game 6 and the content went really good for Game 4, we were pretty excited for it. And then yeah, man, I mean, we see the Snell decision, which that's all time now. And I don't know, I think after that, it was just weird, man. I mean, when the Dodgers punched back, that night, it was clearly more Dodgers fans. And that's obvious, like not even as a shot to Rays fans, they've got a chance to win the World Series.
Yeah,
seriously. So there's more Dodger fans in the house. And I mean, they were loud, they had the lead, and they were the better team. And the Rays just made, what seemed like an all-time postseason mistake. It was just like, this is over. So I think the last 4 innings or whatever it was were a little bit of I don't want to say a bummer, but it just seemed like, okay, the World Series was just lost because a manager didn't trust his best pitcher, and that kind of sucks.
And it's weird, right? Because analytics don't even necessarily say like go to Nick Anderson right there. No.
They don't. We were trying to wrap our heads around it, and that's the part that's bizarre, and that's kind of one of the things I've always hated with the way they treat Snell. I mean, dude's technically got a Cy Young in the bag.
Did he go 6 this year?
I don't know, man. They always do weird stuff with him. Like they've just never fully uncorked Blake Snell, and so it just sucked, man. I mean, he was rolling so hard, and you're right. Everyone was screaming about analytics. The statement Cash kept saying was, third time through the lineup, which, across baseball, yeah, if you see a starting pitcher the third time, they normally get hit harder than. And Snell, in a really small sample size, I think he had been hit this year. But again, we're talking like, how many starts did he have? 11 starts. So and Mookie, like third time through the order, I think his OPS drops, and he was one of the worst hitters against lefties this year.
Couldn't hit lefties.
So that was kind of one of the weird things. Like everyone was ripping analytics when a lot of the analytics for the situation would have said to keep Snell in. But Cash went against that. He trusted his guy. and his guy had been awful for the past 6-7 games. So that's Anderson is the part that really sucks. Like if he goes Diego Castillo there,
Yeah,
I'm
do you
kind of
have a
cool
problem
with
with it? Yeah.
I don't love it because I still got that baseball purist in me that's like, go let Snell do this thing, man. He's rolling
Dude's
right now.
dealing. Yeah.
Where and Castillo had been more rested than the other guys. I think when he's at his best, he's the nastiest. So if they went to Castillo, I think I'm okay with it. I still don't necessarily love it, but to go to Anderson, the guy who's been getting killed, it sucks.
Yeah, you don't really want to see a team kind of. I mean, I didn't hate it, obviously. You know, a little Yankee bias in there, but
Sure.
I mean, you know, you kind of do want to see Snell at least. You know, if Snell gives it up, then it's one thing. At least he like pitched until he emptied the tank, but you know he didn't even get the chance to, which is whatever. But it is what it is, I suppose.
That's right, and that's
Baseball is
best,
sick.
The best counter I heard was from Plouffe, and he was just like, "Hey, man, this is what the Rays do. This is why they got to the World Series. So if that's how they lose the World Series, that's how they lose. That's Rays baseball."
That's just baseball, Susan. So Corey Seager takes home the MVP, and so he's been getting since his injury when they then missed him, and then Machado came back and filled in, and then he got back from his injury. So Seager just stepped up big time. Kershaw finally gets that ring, and so we get to see a generational kind pitcher kind of cement his legacy, even though that it was that one bugaboo on him that he couldn't get that World Series ring, and now he finally gets it, and it's big for him. And did you stay after for like the presentation of the trophy?
We stayed for a little bit. We
did you hear Manfred?
He was yam sauce.
No, so I heard a bunch of stuff. Was he? It was like, yeah, it's like, oh, he had to be drunk. I think it was. Maybe I don't know if he seems like the guy that would do that before the game. I don't really see that as realistic. I'm not going to say that, but I think either it was like they were saying audio issues, or was it just that he got so shook from the booze immediately?
It can't be, dude.
He needs to take a page from the book of Roger Goodell, because Goodell loves the booze at this point.
Just wear it.
Give it all to me at that point, because Manfred was. I feel like that had to be the thing where he was just. He's like, oh shit, fuck, they're scaring me now. I'm just gonna be, slurring my words and everything. That's what it seemed like. But I don't know if you heard that while you guys were there watching the presentation. Did it sound weird in person as it did on television?
So when you talk about moments that stick out, I mean that Game 4, obviously always and forever. Man, when that place booed him, I mean, you could feel that. And again, it was one of those weird things that it was like. Imagine if this was multiplied by 4, because those were some of the loudest boos I've ever heard. And I think he was probably a little shook by that. And I think, and you mentioned Goodell. Like, I think Goodell clearly knows about all the hate and how, people feel about him. I think, Manfred, I think he lives in a bubble, man. And I think he was almost surprised that people weren't like happy he brought baseball back. And I genuinely do. And then I do think the other thing with the slurring a little bit was I think he had the earpiece in where he could hear himself and then it was echoing. I think I've got a couple moments where our headphones do that and I don't start slurring, but I start talking slower. I can hear it, and it's not affecting me. I'm just gonna keep talking.
I'm about to have a seizure, but not really.
Yeah, please call for help. So, I don't know, man. It's with Manfred, it's always the same thing, and it's never a good thing.
Yeah.
And by the way, you mentioned Corey Seager there. If you guys want to lean into something, or any Yankee fans listening, I mean, Corey Seager the past 2 years became kind of disliked by Dodgers fans. He had a 337 on base. The OPS was just over 8, which again is really good for a shortstop. But like they were down on Corey Seager. I don't know if you guys remember, but all the Lindor to the Dodger rumors were like, yeah, give him Seager. He stinks. Like he doesn't have it anymore.
Some pod you had this summer with with some Dodgers fan. I don't know who it was, and I think his son was on too. But they weren't the biggest fan of Seager.
Rob Lowe.
Was
I
it?
think.
Yeah.
I think it was Rob Lowe.
Yeah.
Are
Robin
you,
Matty.
Jake, are you hinting at you just mentioned there the Yankees with Corey Seager. Are you hinting at the fact that the Yankees should bring in
God.
Corey Seager?
Well,
Are you really going to say that?
Don't
No,
touch,
no,
a
no.
lot
don't
of
touch
people
the chosen one.
I see. Listen, me
I'm
and
calling
Tyler
30-second timeout. We gotta drop a plan. On the
Okay.
sideline. No.
Okay.
I'm saying, hey, when he hits free agency, absolutely, sure, bring him in.
Oh, okay. All right.
But what I'm saying is, for any of the Yankees that people might be down on, whether it's Gary, Glaber defensively and kind of his whole season, like, baseball's a silly game, and all these guys have usually a bad season, and usually it's related to injury or something. But, like, again, look where Corey Seager now. I mean, I think he's in the argument for best shortstop in the game. He raked all year, CS MVP, World Series MVP. Like, and that's the part about Gary Sanchez that kills me, that, like, if this dude for, 4 months could figure it out, he would be, like, the best catcher in baseball.
The right 4 months, too.
Yeah, so that's Corey Seager, Gary Sanchez. There it is.
He's a dope player to watch, too, man. I mean, he just kind of puts the ball everywhere and just fucking runs around.
And, dude, there's something about lefties, and this is my other complaint about
satisfying to watch them.
my complaint about the Yanks. Like, I know, a lot of their guys are split-proof, blah, blah, blah. There's something about having a balanced lineup that's important, that doesn't just translate analytically. That, like, the Dodgers went every other, righty-lefty. The great Yankee teams, Bernie Williams splitting it up, switch hitting, Posada switch hitting. They had Tina. It was just, they had a balance that this Yankees team still doesn't feel like it has, and I don't know what it would be to break it up, and I don't think it's happening, because I don't think their front office cares. But
yeah. Well, they're going to compete. They know that. So, I mean, they're not really in a place where they want to go out and shake shit up, because they know they don't need to. And we keep hearing the stuff like we're this close, and I guess, like, we are, but, like, are we?
It's this weird analytical thing where, because the playoffs are such a small sample size of games, analytically all the playoffs are a toss-up.
Especially in baseball.
Which, I mean, is partially true, but it's a lot better toss-up if you have the best talent and the best plan and everything else. So,
yeah,
we'll see.
Whatever, man. I don't even care.
There you go.
I don't even care, man.
No.
Whatever the Yankees do, it's all right.
I'm just
So, delving back into our beloved New York Yankees, some recent offseason news, and we kind of touched on Tanaka, so we kind of covered that. But Zach Britton back, and Tommy Kahnle is on the free agent market, and we gave a qualifying offer to DJ LeMahieu. I believe he rejected it today or yesterday. I think so.
He should have. I think today. Yeah.
Brett Gardner, the Yankees declined Brett Gardner's
there.
$10 million option, so they either are going to let him walk, or they would probably take him on a lower end deal to try and get him back, because they are. I remember on our last pod when we were talking with Keith, he was talking about how the Yankees really and Gardner kind of want to have a season at home and a farewell kind of tour kind of vibe with him for the Yankees. So that's kind of what it's looking like there. But
J-Hap's on his way to the moon, I think.
J-Hap is on his way to the moon. So, Jake, you kind of alluded to it earlier in the pod about your expectations for the Yankees this offseason. Obviously, we want DJ LeMahieu back. I'd say that's kind of a thing of all Yankee fans, that we want him back. What are other moves that you would like to be seen done? Do you think that we've kind of had a sort of theme here going on our pod that, like, we're scared Steve Cohen just comes in and just throws a shit ton of money at DJ LeMahieu?
The Cinderella story, like, none of us want to hear.
Yeah, absolutely not. So
he's the only one that hasn't lost money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think we get DJ, and what other moves do you think have to happen this offseason, if any, that will kind of put us in a position to be better next year?
So I think, DJ's the pivot point, right? Like, does someone throw a ton of money at him, and does he care? Is it the Mets and Cohen trying to – I mean, dude, talk about how stoked Mets fans are, and they should be. I mean, they got the richest owner, new guy coming in. He wants to make a splash. Like, man, to take LeMahieu from the Yanks, how nuts would that be? That would suck. I think the Yankees are going to bring back DJ. DJ's really enjoyed being with the Yankees. He wants to compete for titles. He said that. And again, the money's got to be close. And I think the Yankees, okay, Hal Steinbrenner, yes, you lost money. You're still going to be good because you own the Yankees. And you're still going to sell a ton of jerseys. You're going to start putting butts in the stands next year. You're going to be good, dude. Don't let the Yankees lose out on someone like DJ LeMahieu, who's been a top 5 MVP guy for you the past 2 years. So in my heart of hearts, I think DJ comes back. I can't tell if my heart's blinding me there. And then I think it's a veteran starting pitcher. The hot take I was on early, and again, it doesn't look good now, and I kind of need the Dodgers to lose the World Series for this. I thought Chapman might get traded. I think he's got a no-trade clause. I forget if it's full or limited teams. But I was doing some math in my head, and I'm like, okay, Cashman might have to get tricky with his money this year. Chapman, and this is the part that scares me, is, the season has ended back-to-back years with Aroldis Chapman giving up a homer. It's kind of like the fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Could you just imagine if another season –
I can't imagine.
Imagine if another season ends with that dude on the bump.
The moon. To the moon. Get out of here.
So that's where I'm saying, I'd almost rather avoid that. And, hey, again, Chapman,
Brad Hand.
Yeah, hey, what's his contract going to look like? But if you could move Chapman, he's still got some value. He's still got crazy stuff. Flip him. You save yourself from money. Maybe you get another lesser reliever back, but somebody good. And that gives you money to go sign a reliever like a Brad Hand. So, you could get 2 bodies in the bullpen. It was hot takey. I don't necessarily believe in that, but I could see it happening and it makes sense. I honestly think it's going to be kind of quiet. If LeMahieu doesn't happen, I think they go bargain bin. And again, this is where I've started to get myself excited about this offseason because I was like, it's going to be dead. They're not going to do anything, blah, blah, blah. But if nobody's paying for any free agents, which a lot of people think is going to happen, I think the Yankees could really improve their depth / let's say no LeMahieu. Someone like Jason Kipnis, dude went out and played really good for the Cubs this year. I think he's going to be a cheap contract. Man, a lefty bat. If he could get hot at the stadium, a guy that's been an all-star, I'd love to see that. And I'd love, interested to see what the market is because if he could be a depth piece for us, that'd be awesome. That was one of the bigger differences because, the Yankees in depth, we got the stacked bullpen. Last year, we were crazy deep because when Talkman stepped up, Urshela stepped up, we kind of had this weird AAA depth. Cameron
Ford,
Maben,
too.
Mike Ford looked good. Cameron Maben, and we forget we ended last year with Edwin Encarnacion on the team. The
that
year
feels
before,
so long ago.
Didi, the year before this, we could almost go 2 lineups deep, and they were pretty nice. And people still had that same energy this year, but we didn't have that. So I'm really hoping they take a chance on some veterans on the bench. Again, my brain initially jumps to Kipnis. He's a lefty. You could, if Urshela, you can move DJ around, blah, 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 different rest days. We'll see. But I don't know. What I have talked myself into is that the Yankees, if all the other teams are going to be not paying veterans, then, why aren't we in the same boat? And if you were a veteran, let's say you're a veteran reliever, let's say it is Brad Hand, and the market gets really bad. His best option is 1 year, $5 million. Would you rather do that in Kansas City, or would you rather do that trying to win a title for the Yankees? So
do it in the Bronx.
Yeah, so that's my spin zone a little bit, but I really think they still like the roster they got. I don't think they have a ton of money. And I think they do believe in these young guys. I think that's why Davey's still around. I think that's why Clark's still around. So I think that's it. That the only thing that would go crazy AWOL nut job would be if they do flip Clint. I mean, his value's at an all-time high. They tried to trade Clint a couple years before this. It would sting because
Good God, I hope not.
to
Hate
go
that,
to
but
go
I hope
through
it
this
doesn't.
to go through this whole Clint Frazier, ups and downs, highs and lows. We're sending him down. He's getting hurt. He looks good. He looks bad. To have this year where he was great, he was awesome, a Gold Glove finalist. His bat's electric. He was great with the media and stuff this year. To have it all end like that would seem pretty fucked up. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's where my wheels have been spinning is like, if Cashman's going to do some trades, who are the trade pieces? They kind of don't exist right now.
Yeah.
No.
I hate hearing the Luke Voigt stuff too.
And you just can't do that.
You're do that.
He just can't. Nah.
And he's cheap and under control for like his prime upcoming years. Like they're not going to do that.
Yeah, and he's an absolute Mack truck. Like he just plays baseball.
Home run champ.
Yeah, that is that too.
Bench is a light. What is it? 135 with his one arm, just absolute animal.
Cash.
What is that? He did that.
Yeah, dude, you never saw that? You never saw that? Dude, you got to go watch that
135 with one arm?
Yes, he took the bar and he was doing it with one arm, and he's just like, yeah, just put it in one arm. I'm just going to do it, no problem. Like, what?
Dude's
That's not what's supposed to happen.
Luke Voigt belongs in the 80s, I feel like.
He's a football player that ended up playing baseball.
Yeah.
It's cool to watch. What do you guys? Do you guys have any? Is there something I'm missing? Are you guys zooming in on specific guys, or is there?
I don't really
the
think
bullpen. I don't know.
I don't think I'm on the same boat. I don't think they can do much. A big plus for me is if we just, I don't know, do the absolute worst to Adam Ottavino and send him somewhere that's just not here. Because I don't know, I'm done.
That's another way to shed money.
Yeah, exactly. But his value is also. Is it even anything right now? I can't see him being a piece in some sort of trade unless it's like a guy with a guy like Clint.
There's a world where you tack on like an Albert Abreu, and I think a team could buy in or something. But again, like that's now we just made our bullpen thinner.
I love Brad Hand, and I'm a big Darren O'Day fan as of late. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and act like I, watched a ton of Darren O'Day this year because I most certainly did not. But the Sidewinder, something the Yanks haven't had for some time. I mean, it could be a little something interesting to have come in.
His stats are gross, by the way.
Yeah,
he's had a really good career.
I'd mentioned pretty much relief help. Tyler had thrown out a name before on the pod too, Gosman. If we do lose out on some starting pitchers, would probably like to see if we could get him on a deal. But he seems like he's gaining a little bit more traction in the free agent market in terms of being eyed. So we'll have to see. Starting pitching is always a must for a lot of teams. Relief pitchers, I was getting wishful. I was like, can we get Liam Hendricks? But I'm like, wait, we have no money, so that's probably not going to happen. But, small little pieces like Brad Hand could probably work after what the Cleveland just didn't want to do anything with him. So it's like, okay.
Also, does he not want to be a closer, though? That's the thing, too.
Yeah. And then another maybe like a relief pitcher like Sean Doolittle, but because the Nationals may not want to bring him back. He's an arm that we could use. But mainly because, it's been the story that we've been saying on this pod. Like, the Yankee fans got to just not expect too much because the Steinbrenners lost money, and it's going to be really tough for them to go out and sign the huge free agent deals. And people are saying, Bauer could take a 1-year deal. I don't really buy in on that so much anymore because if he's 30 and if he could get like a long-term contract for a lot of money, I don't know if it's that easy to just pass up and say, I'm going to bet on myself every year and see what I could do. Like, I don't really see that. So, yeah, just kind of these little moves. I know people were thinking Tommy La Stella, but his price tag, I think, is going to be a little too high for the Yankees to get. So, And also got to see what we do with the rest of our integral little pieces. You know, is Mike Ford going to come back? Is Talkman going to be on this roster? I got a funny feeling at least one of them is going to be. What are we going to do with Gardy? So the next month or so is going to be really interesting with moves coming from the Yankees. But now it is time for our segment for Jake. We got a fun little thing here. There are top 10 moondoggies for the New York Yankees of the season of 2020 for you, Jake, right here.
Ooh, okay.
So tell me what you think of the list. If you want to kind of do some integral, ins and outs, by all means, let us know. So number 10, we have Clint Frazier starting off his season debut with a nice spark against the Atlanta Braves. I believe that was the first series, the series at the stadium. Number 9, we got Hicks ties it against the Mets. That was
5 feet over the wall.
That was nuts.
Nuts. Just got over. Number 8, we have the great start to the season, Stanton opening day moondoggie off Max Scherzer. Number 7, we got Aaron Judge go-ahead dinger where he hit the 3 home runs in 3 games, I believe, and I think it was even a hotter streak that he had. But this was the one where A-Rod goes, oh, Aaron Judge in the same breath as LeBron James, Michael Jordan.
Man.
Just, God.
Baseball.
Baseball.
Was that the Gio Urshela's the best third baseman in baseball night?
It was also the Mike
one?
Ford is
the
Babe
Mike
Ruth.
Ford.
Babe Ruth, yes.
So that's what we have at number 7. Number 6, we got Gary Sanchez's home run against Cleveland that caught some wind that I remember you guys were like, holy shit, it's getting out. It's getting out. So that was a good one. Number 5, now we're going with a multi-game moondoggie game. We have the 3 home runs by Kyle Higashioka against the Toronto Blue Jays. A triple moondoggie.
Ding dong doon.
How nuts was that?
Absolutely crazy. That was like thinking
out the cut.
Just thinking now that like Higashioka has arrived as competition for Gary. Like that
and
was insane.
And he couldn't stop smiling.
Didn't he have another? I think was it his first at bat or another at bat was a fly ball to the warning track. Like Higgy, he was on one, man.
He was
almost dropped a 4-piece with his dick in his hand.
Jeez.
Number 4, we have Judge starts it off against the Indians against Bieber.
Yeah.
And number 3, the Stanton grand slam in the 5-2 playoff game against the Rays. And for 1 and 2. I was kind of talking to Tyler before the pod, and I just don't know which one could go which. I think for circumstance, for the game, a game that we won, and circumstance of how big of a home run. So I'll just say the 2 home runs that we got is obviously the Gio Urshela grand slam against Cleveland. But dude, this home run Giancarlo Stanton hit in the game that we lost, I think it was game 2. That they measured it at 458 feet. Absolutely no shot. That's how far it went.
Yeah.
I literally turned to my dad watching the game. I was like, holy fucking shit. How did that get out so far? Like that it's so fast. It just went out. So Jake, I think for circumstance of how big of the game it was, I think we're going to put Gio's at 1, but that just the sheer Giancarlo Stanton should just be, Exit Velo should just be named after him at this point because that was just insane.
The Stanton Velo. He looks like a mean person at the plate too. It just makes it even better.
Yeah, the fro going too.
Yeah, he had the fro going this year. Yeah, I think anything over 120 should be called a Stanton on Exit Velo. Yeah, man, and it's wild, man, when he's locked in like he was this playoffs and the messages I've heard early are like, don't forget what Stan did this playoffs. He carried the damn team for a little bit. So hopefully he can do that for a regular season.
Some A-Rod vibes.
It's just different, man. When he catches one,
it goes.
I mean, look at the way he hits. It's almost like he's playing a different sport.
Doesn't even make sense.
Because if he can get the barrel of his bat on a baseball, it can go for miles. That was I forget if they talked to a Padres player or maybe because they were doing a whole Adames and Tatis Jr. were friends or something. But I think they talked to a Padres player, and they were like, oh, so did you see that Stanton homer that was 458 feet? And they're like, yeah, it's not. That doesn't start with a 4. That starts with a 5. Like that's not a normal. That's not a normal human home run. So I think on the Moondoggie scale, you're right. But if this was like, I'm trying to picture if there was different ratings like shape, size. Trying to think. However else I rate my penis.
Lusciousness.
Lusciousness. But yeah, Gio for game circumstance. I think the one, and again, this one, shape and size would be nothing. But, dude, that Hicks homer against the Mets, that was
huge.
that one took me back.
Such a depressing vibe that whole
Yes.
weekend, too.
Yeah.
One that I think that I forgot actually now just running through this list, and I feel stupid for it, was the Glaber home run off the wall and the brick wall in San Diego. So I feel bad for leaving that one. But another honorable mention was the Gary grand slam in that same series, the Mets. So it'll be our first Moondoggie list, but it may not be the last. I think we got a lot more Moondoggies coming for the pod, and we'll see how it goes. But Jake, to kind of wrap up, before we wrap up the pod, we talked about like the offseason moves, and obviously 2021 kind of depends on, if we bring back DJ and what other kind of stuff we do. But what is your vibe heading into 2021? What we've been saying on the pod is that there's been a hot seat obviously for Aaron Boone based on the decisions, but we don't know of whether or not it's him making the decisions or Cashman or the front office. But even though Cashman came out and said he's had full control like Torre and Girardi's had. So, and also my little prediction is if they don't get something done soon in say the next 2 years, Brian Cashman may be, I think he has 2 more years left on his deal. It may be a little hot under Brian Cashman's seat. So what's your opinion on hot seats possibly, and what's the vibe heading into 2021?
Is his butt warm?
I think Boone's butt could be warm next year. And if I remember correctly, which I probably don't, I think next year was supposed to be an option year on his contract, which him and the Yankees both opted into or something like that. And then, I think next year his contract might be up. So if the year goes weird, I mean, you could have one of those situations where it's, not necessarily a firing, but maybe the Yankees explore their options. We'll see. I mean, we get so sucked in and lost in Yankee land where it's championship or bust. And at the same time, it's not. I mean, we got to be honest. I mean, we haven't been raking in the titles that, Boone's breaking records, I think, with like winning percentages in the first 3 years as a manager or whatever it is. So we'll see. I think what's going to be interesting is I think a lot of it kind of depends on those Rays, man. I mean, the Rays, they've been pitching for a while. They've been playing defense for a while. They might have some real hitters now. I mean, Lau broke out this year, Arozarena, everybody saw that. And Austin Meadows was the dude who was supposed to be their best hitter coming into the season. He had some injuries in a weird year, but he's really good. I mean, if they can start off games, Meadows, Arozarena, Lau, like that's – now the Rays are starting to get a lineup too, and that's where they get scary.
I don't like that at all.
No, not good.
They got that top prospect Wander Franco too. The Rays get scary quick. So we'll see. I mean, again, I think Houston is going to take a step down. Like I think they're losing Springer.
Yeah.
They're losing Reddick.
Brantley maybe too.
Brantley, maybe they bring one of those pieces back. I don't know. I think that team's going to start looking different. Verlander's out for next year too, or he should be. He's out for next year. The A's, they might be losing some pieces. Simeon's a free agent.
White Sox
when you look
on
at
the
these,
up and up though.
The White Sox are in the up and up, and especially if they add another bona fide starter, or they have Kopech, who is another piece in the Moncada sale trade. Like the White Sox are in the up and up. It'll be a little bit, prove it and let's see where they are. Because at the same time, a young team, Tony La Russa, they could be,
Yeah.
they could end up being 500 around the All-Star game, and people could be freaking out. So the Yankees are still going to be one of the most talented teams in the AL. We'll see how the season script starts to play off. I mean, the question marks are going to be wild. Is Domingo Germán the guy that won us, what was it, 15 games, 18 games?
Ton
I
of
think it was
fucking
18.
games.
I think it was 18.
Are we getting an 18-game winner, Domingo Germán, or are we getting no Domingo Germán? I mean, is Gary Sanchez on a Hall of Fame pace, or is he going to be on the waiver wire? Is Judge and Stanton's health? And what other moves can they do to bolster this team? And I'm wondering if Cashman, he might have some tight rules. Maybe he gets the thumbs up on DJ and that's it. Maybe it's DJ and Tanaka. And maybe they have to wait till the trade deadline to make sure they've got some cash flow, and maybe then they can make some moves. But it's the Yankees, guys. I mean, think about this. If we were doing, if this was a Tigers podcast, well, hey, we'd be a little excited. They got some young talent. But if we were talking about,
They got AJ Hinch. Get out of here.
Yeah.
They'd be defending themselves. Hey! It was a good hire. It was a good hire.
Good hair. Yeah, he wasn't involved. Yeah, if this was a Tigers podcast and we were talking about the best teams in the AL, the Yankees would be up there, and they're going to be up there, and we'll see how it plays out a little bit. Garrett Cole is still different. Does Davy Garcia build on it? Can he be a special dude? I mean, I don't know. Does Sevy come back and look like Luis Severino, man? I mean, Cole and Sevy, if they're both right going into the playoffs, give me the Yankees all day. Give me the Yankees all day. But, I mean, a lot of those are question marks. So we'll see. I mean, give me a couple sneaky Cashman moves. I can't be banking on Ford and Talkman next year. I'm sorry. I like Talkman a lot. Talkman did a live event with us. He's a cool dude. And it was just tough to watch for a little bit this year. And especially if this free agency is going to suck, Cashman, go get me a couple value guys. Go get me another piece on the bench that I can feel really good about coming into this year. And I think we can, man. I mean, go around the horn. If Gary Sanchez is right, giant question mark. Voit was literally the home run champ. DJ's back, okay, top 5 MVP last couple seasons. Gleyber Torres can be as talented of a shortstop in the league. Urshela has been a godsend. Hicks just puts up numbers. It's kind of weird to watch sometimes, but it's all he does. Judge and Stanton are freak shows. It's so the Yankees still have it. Is it Florial time? No. But we'll see, man. They're still really good. It just, I think they have made a couple moves that they've regretted. And, look, it took the Dodgers. The Dodgers were a great team that added Mookie Betts. And that's part of what got them over the top. So I don't know if that move is there for the Yankees. If Cashman can pull a Frankie Lindor out of his butt, sign me up, obviously. But, I'm not going to stay up dreaming about that.
Yeah. I hear you.
We're going to have to see what happens. There's a lot of question marks. Like you said, there's just a lot of things that we have to see play out and well into the season, to be honest, to kind of see where this Yankee team is eventually going to be at. But that's going to be it for this episode. Jake, thank you so much for coming on, man. We appreciate the Moondoggy King coming on and talking some Yanks with us, man.
Moondog life, baby.
Jake, I got one more question for you before we say our goodbyes and hugs and kisses. And it's probably the most important question that I personally care about in this whole pod. I need your top 3 most attractive Yankees with off-season facial hair.
Ooh, with the facial hair.
Yeah, with the off-season facies.
Okay, so how about I can come back on one person because I feel bad about what I just said about them. Go check out Mikey Talkman with the beard on the Colorado Rockies. Hot.
Yeah? Does he have a little beard action going?
Check out Talkman with the beard, man. He that's you pull your girl a little closer. with the facial hair, again, Glaber tiptoes on cute, and he's trying to do facial hair like a young guy. I think he's out. God, who's got? I mean, Stan, does he have the mustache going? What's
I think
Stanton
he's
up
got
to?
a little goatee action.
Okay.
I don't know though.
Again, you know, Stanton, he's got the Greek god thing going. You got to be into that a little bit. And then for me, I don't know if he's doing
Yeah, and you
facial
were
hair.
Stanton for Halloween, right?
Yeah, or he was me. I don't know. Tough to say. And then, you know, if you guys have some Talkin Yanks history, I mean, I think, you know, the hottest Yankee under the sun, Chad Green. If he's getting a little bit going on, I mean, sign me up all day for that, all day. So yeah, I'm trying to think. Who are we missing? I mean,
Hicks grows it, but it looks kind of scraggly.
T-Wade gets it going a little bit. I mean, Tyler.
I know you love T-Wade a little bit.
Me and Tyler are always doing our thing. Like we feel like we don't even need to put ourselves on the list. Like
sometimes I don't even know who I'm looking at on the field. I don't know if it's Talkin Jake or Tyler Wade out there.
It's straight Halloween spooky mode. And you know, Waders gets a lot of shit from the Yankee fans, and yet he always tries to save it towards the end of the season. Like, dude, have a hot start one time, and I think we could love you, man. I will say this, and we, you know, part of the fun of doing this is finding out guys' personalities. Wade has been really cool. The two funny Wade stories. We saw him at Cece's event a couple years ago, and we hadn't met him. And I had been doing the Tyler Wade joke for a little while. So I was like, so I see him and I'm like, oh boy, like, is this going to be weird? A, does he know? 2, if he knows, does he think it's weird as shit? 3, does he get that it's like a joke? Because Tyler Wade's a lot hotter than me. So Tyler Wade's walking over. We lock eyes from across the room.
Immediately drawn.
And he, credit to him, he does a double take, like he just saw himself in the mirror. And I was like, all right, Tyler, I appreciate that, my man. So that was cool. And then the other thing, at spring training this year, he agreed to an interview. So he met us at our RV in the parking lot, which again, really cool. And, you know, we're at a spring training parking lot. So a bunch of people come over and they flock over. Can I get a picture? Can I get an autograph? And he was super cool, really nice to everyone. Two like moms, like young moms, I'd say early 40s, you know, giving Tyler a look a little bit. They both go, oh, I didn't know you were this tall. Tyler Wade's nice, man. He's 6'1", cut up.
Professional athlete.
Pro athlete. But he's always on TV with Aaron Judge or Giancarlo Stanton or these monsters of humans that these like moms were coming up to him and were like, wow, you're taller than I thought. So imagine being this stud dude who's like he was a big time shortstop prospect for the Yankees, and half of the initial reactions they get are like, wow, you're taller than I thought, fella. So that's I don't know. Those are my Tyler Wade anecdotes.
Yeah.
Love me some T-Wade.
Yeah.
Also, Jake, before we say, I know there's a little ongoing joke you guys got over there. Personally, I don't think you suck. I don't think Rob thinks you suck either. So shout out to kids that think you suck.
No.
So, yeah. What is that?
Jar of Swedish fish, baby.
Oh,
yeah.
Amazing candy. Amazing candy.
Glued shut. I can't open it.
All right. Well, thank you once again, Jake, for coming on the pod. We really appreciate it. Hopefully, maybe sometime when the season starts next year or whenever we keep the pod going, maybe our paths will cross once again. And be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify. Give us a follow on social media, on Twitter @4Savages. And we love engaging and just going back and forth with the Yankee fans on Twitter, as you must like to do as well, Jake, because it's just funny sometimes to hear these opinions and kind of the Yankees Twitter is a crazy place, man, and it's just interesting to see. So once again,
Jake's a big dog guy too, so shout out to that on Twitter.
Oh, big time. And I'm about to get on the 4 train. So I mean, this is it. This is full circle.
I'll see the tweet. Anyone want to talk about some dogs?
Oh yeah, man. Little blazed on the couch, just ready to see what everybody's gonna roll in with.
Love that.
Love it. So once again, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to the pod on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, leave us a review, and we will catch you next time.